His mates say he's one of the greatest guys in the Indian cricket team. His parents say he was incorrigibly mischievous as a child, but his wife insists he's a terrific husband. Well, today is your chance to check him out for yourself as I introduce you to Hemang Badani. Welcome to the program, Hemang.
Thank you.
Let's start with that moment in Karachi when both you and Kef chased after that Shoaib Malik board. We all saw you collide together. Did he end up kicking you in the head?
Well, he did knock my cap off. I mean, thank goodness for it being my cap and not my head. that was close, but it so happened that it was a time in the match that things were getting really hot, and that catch was really important that somebody took it. And it gets very noisy when you play at that level, and when you have so many people around, you have such big crowds. So I didn't hear his call, neither did he hear my call, and we both went for the catch. And at one point of time, it was good that I actually went under him. If I had not gone under him, then maybe things would have been bad.
You could have actually had spikes in your brain.
Yeah, I would have had spikes in my brain, and my face would have been torn apart. But luckily that didn't happen, and we did take, I mean, he did end up taking the catch, and things were good after that. So that was a close shave.
Let's go back to the very beginning of your cricketing story. I gather you were 9 or thereabouts when you first began playing, but it happened entirely by accident.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember that day when I went to play with my dad. Rather, as a child, I would always go with my dad to watch his matches, and he used to play a little bit of cricket in Madras. And it was one Sunday at the English Electric Ground in Madras, and my dad's team was one player short. And my dad said, okay, at least the least you could do is you can stop a few balls when you're fielding, and maybe that would save us a few runs.
But he didn't have any great hopes in you, did he?
No, not at all. I mean, you're playing a league match when most elders play, and me being a 9-year-old, he just said, okay, fine, son, just be along with us and do whatever you can do, run a few balls.
Except you took him completely by surprise, didn't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. He didn't know what was in the offering, I mean. And there came a time in the game that me and my dad were batting at one point of time, and I was the last guy batting. And in those days, it was not a 50-over game. It was just a one-day game, and you could actually get a side out, or you could have a drawn game. And for things to happen, it went on, and we batted for 2.5 hours. Me, that being my first game at a good level, and me and my dad batted for 2.5 hours. But my pads were so big because they were my uncle's pads. My bat being a big bat, and me batting for 2.5 hours at that level. I mean, that being my first time exposure to that kind of cricket. And that's when my dad said, okay, I mean, this guy has something in him.
And in fact, that's when your dad also decided that you needed to change schools so that you could get proper cricket coaching. He sent you to a school that was so far away, you had to wake up at 5 in the morning as a result.
Absolutely, but it was done with my consent. He checked out with me saying, well, this is okay with you, because if you want to take up cricket as a career, the school where you're studying right now is not good enough to give you coaching and give you classes for cricket. And this school was a very famous school for cricket in Madras. All the cricketers who've come out from Tamil Nadu have gone to that school. So he did ask me and say that, son, this is what you want to do, and if you want to do this, you'll have to go to this school. And I was glad to do it. I mean, getting up at 5 in the morning was tough, and it was even tougher for my family, as in my mom had to get up at about 4:30 to cook me my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner. So it wasn't easy for us.
All 3 meals went with you at the same time?
Yeah, because I would get back only at about 7 in the evening. I would leave home at about 5, practice till 6 to 8:30. After 8:30, I would go into my classes, finish classes at 4, and then again I have a nets in the evening, which finish at about 6:30, and get back, take the bus back home, which was a 1.5-hour drive, and be back home by 7:38, and that was tough, but I guess it's all paid off.
Not surprisingly, year by year, cricket came to dominate your life, but I gather there was a time when you were about 18, when your dad felt your commitment was wavering and he had to talk to you.
I don't remember that day, because I've been playing cricket since I was 9, and there came a point in my career that I had to decide whether I take up the sport seriously or do I not take it up seriously, because I wasn't taking great strides in the past 10 years of my cricket career, rather 9 years of my career. Everybody kept saying I was good, I was talented, but it never came out to performance. I was maybe a little too childish, or I was just happy playing the sport than performing. So
what did Dad say to you?
He just came and told me, son, it's a point in your career now, in your life now, that you either take cricket seriously or you start studying, because you just can't go on like this. Fine, you like the sport, but you need to do something about you taking it seriously. And that's when I said, fine. I mean, and by 18 you start understanding things, what's happening with your career and where do you want to go.
So you needed to be spoken to like this. You needed
probably it did make a difference to me. I mean, if not, maybe I would have just been the same way I was, just going through life, just having a good time with everything. I mean, not taking up anything seriously. So it was good that he came and told me this.
And things changed pretty quickly. You got chosen for the first time to play for India in May 2000. You played in the Asia Cup in Dhaka. But I gather you got the news in the most peculiar circumstances.
Well, it was quite peculiar actually because we just finished the camp in Pune, being my first national camp in Pune, and we were just getting back home that afternoon after the camp. We had finished the practice in the morning, and we were just going back home. And I knew for a fact the team was being picked that afternoon, and
So you were on tenterhooks.
no, I wasn't really in tenterhooks to be honest because I wasn't in the reckoning. That's what I felt. I mean, that's what I thought. Maybe it's not the right time. I was just happy to be in that camp because that was my first Indian national camp.
So how did you find out?
I was playing with. I mean, I just happened to be going down the lift. I mean, going to the ground floor to leave the hotel and take the flight to Madras. And when I reached the ground floor, it so happened that the selectors and Mr. Kapil Dev was right there, who was the coach of the Indian cricket team at that point of
So you
time.
mean the lift was opened and
And
Kapil
he was
there?
He was right there in front of me. And he was the guy who said, "Buddy, where are you off to?" I said, "Nahi, I'm just going home." He said, "You better pack your bags." I was like, I didn't get what he said. He said, "Tum aa rahe ho hamare saath." I was like, wow. I was just sapped. I mean, first thing playing for India,
So
and
if you'd
actually
been late or the lift had been early, you would have gone to Chennai instead of going to Dhaka.
probably yes, that could have happened. So it was amazing that he had to say that to me, and that being my first call to the Indian side, it was just amazing.
Of course, you've had several such strange encounters. I gather that equally strange, if not more so, was the way you found out in June 2001 about playing your first test.
Well, that was a nightmare actually. I mean, I was so nervous because I've always wanted to play Test cricket and I was looking forward to it. And I thought I was a little too eager, too tense, too uptight that game, and I was.
And when you're
I
jumping
was-
to the game, your wife says, ask him how he found out. She says it's not a story he likes to tell very often.
Well, it so happens that Saurav had come into the room and he was knocking on my door and
Knocking on the loo door.
yeah, okay, you could say that on the loo door, and I was in the loo for about half an hour, and he just couldn't wait any longer, and he just wished me luck from right outside the door, and then he went back.
So you were inside the loo with the captain waiting outside to tell you that you'd been chosen to play in your first test, and you wouldn't come out.
I was just too nervous. I didn't know how to go out and talk to him at that point of time because I was too uptight. I was looking forward to that moment.
You
and
felt safer in the loo.
yeah, you could say that.
Now, in fact, it was a very unusual test debut because not only was it your first test, it was also your first time as an opener. Was it wise to mix the two together?
Well, I'm somebody who always believed in playing a game and not sitting out. And I had a chat with the coach and the captain with regards to the decision I'm making, and they said whatever you feel like. If you are okay with opening, I mean it was my first time, but I said it's better taking a chance opening the innings and not playing. It is always better to be playing cricket than sitting outside and warming the benches.
In a sense, the challenge really got you. You were
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah, I said, no, come what may, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open the innings. May it be the first time in my career, but I'm going to take it up. And you never know. I mean, Shevak was never an opener, and he's become an opener today, and he's done well. So you never know with these things. So I said, I'm just going to take a chance and go through with it.
When your fans look at your career, they usually say that, in fact, the highlight was a couple of months earlier in March that year when you scored that scintillating 100 against Australia.
Well, that was one of the high points of my career. I mean, it still is because I've always had this respect for the Australian side. They're the best team in the world. I mean, I don't need to say it. Most people know that. And to get 100 against the Australians was something which I've always cherished. And it was disappointing that we didn't end up winning that game. I mean, it wasn't a great wicket to get 100 on that wicket of 98 balls and to do it against Aussies, which I've always looked up to doing something like that because I've had those dreams in my life. And one of the dreams was to get 100 against Australia. To get that was
So as you were
special.
standing at the crease that day, did you say to yourself, hang on, this is supposed to be a dream, not reality?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a child, I had those small things written in my book that I had to carry 100 against Australia, and there were a few more things like that. And to actually realize one of your dreams was special.
Your friends say that you had a unique way of practicing. You used to get them to bowl wet tennis balls at you, standing on stools.
Well, it so happened that Migra was a tall bowler, and I haven't played anybody as tall as him.
And your friends weren't told, so you put them on a
they
stool.
were, exactly. That was the whole idea. I mean, it's a different thing playing somebody who's as tall as that and actually getting the arm that high. So anybody who would bowl in India wasn't as tall as him. So it's a different thing when you look up and look down when you're batting. And I had to get used to that. So I made sure I got somebody who could at least get to that height. If not he being that tall, at least get him to that height so that he could chuck balls from that. And the idea of having those tennis balls was to make it skid through the concrete so it would come faster.
So that you actually were tested with what was the closest you could get to terrific tough bowling.
Absolutely, that was the whole idea, to actually manipulate the whole thing into a different situation and practice.
Now, sadly, the low point in your career, the other end of the spectrum, perhaps came in February 2002 when people accused you of batting slowly and for being responsible for India's defeat against England. Was that a fair accusation, or do you think they made you a scapegoat?
Well, I think it's one of those things in life when you're really trying hard, you're working hard, and things go wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, at that point of time, when I went to bat, we had about 45 runs to get with 10 overs to go and,
And
5
5
wickets in
wickets.
hand. And I was the last of the batsmen who was batting then with Kaif in there. But as soon as I got in there, Kaif had got out. So I was the last of the batsmen. So my mindset was to make sure that I, being a batsman, play till the end and try and look to get through the side.
And
I
in
mean,
fact,
because
in a very real sense, it was the other 5 batsmen who stupidly threw their wicket away. They should have been blamed, and yet the press turned on you instead.
that was harsh. I mean, because there was nobody who played through me with the next 10 overs, and we lost the game. And at the end of it, they said I was to be blamed because I didn't see the game through. But
So they were
I thought that
scapegoating
was
you,
I
weren't
thought
they?
that was really harsh on me, and it's one of those things which I still feel sad about. But things happen, and I have to move on in life.
In fact, it wasn't just the press who turned on you. You got dropped for 21 long months. That must have hurt.
That was really hard because that point of time I was having a good career. I was going through a good time, and then all of a sudden I don't get played. I mean, I don't get picked for whatever reasons. I mean, that's something which I don't know about. And to be actually back home, training hard, doing your own things right, even then getting runs for the state side, doing and getting runs in the right games, and still not getting a chance was really tough. And what happened at that point of time was a lot of guys who actually played with me stopped believing in me, started talking bad about me, started talking things that he's never going to make it again, he's not going to be back at the Indian side. So they weren't really encouraging words from many of my friends or my colleagues either. So it was really tough, and I must thank my
You
family.
felt those who were closest to you in the team, your colleagues, your coaches, had actually let you down as well.
Yeah, they actually stopped believing in me, started saying things that they shouldn't be saying at that point of time, which was really tough.
Did
for
you
me.
ever lose your belief in yourself?
No, I never did because I mean, once I had tasted success, once I had played for India, I knew I could do it again. It was just that
But it must have
I
been
had to
pretty
keep,
hard to believe in yourself when no one else was believing in you.
at least I had my family support. I mean, I must say my mom, dad, wife, they were all with me all the time. I mean, there was not one time when they said, "Son, give it away now. Just concentrate on something else." It never happened. They just kept saying, "We are there with you. Just keep pushing yourself, keep working hard." So
The amazing
that
thing
never
is,
really happened.
when you did come back, you came back with a bang. And I'm not talking about the Australian tour last year or the Pakistan tour this year. I'm talking about that amazing performance when you were still with the India A team against New Zealand in October 2003. In a way, that really showed the selectors what you were.
Well, this is a long incident actually. I must tell this because I was picked to England on the A tour in June that year, and I had a very good A tour. And after that, we had the Challenger Trophy. I had a very good Challenger Trophy as well. And before the England tour, I had the Ranji finals where I got 100. I had a Duleep Trophy game where I had got 100. So I had a string of scores to actually back me up. And then this side game had come against New Zealand at Rajkot.
And you had a fractured hand.
Yeah, it so happened when I went to bat that evening, I got a knock on my right wrist, and I was in pain. And we cricketers do get hit and we do get injured every now and then.
Yeah, but to
this
bat
was,
with a fractured
yeah,
hand
but
is
this
pretty
was
unusual.
this was some other kind of pain. It was shooting pain. It was whenever I hit the ball, it was jarring here. And I said, this is not the kind of pain you normally get. And I said, anyways, I just have half an hour to bat this evening, so I'll just go through that and let's see what happens after that. And when I checked out that evening, I had a fracture. And I had to go back and think whether I take the chance of batting with a fracture or not. And I said, at the most, what would happen with a fractured hand is it'll get a little worse, or I'll get out. But if I do something well with a fractured hand, it's actually gonna boast all these scores what I've got before. And I just took the chance, and
you got
I got
127.
I got a 127 with a fractured hand, and I'm proud of that.
Hemang, let's take a break at that point. I want to come back in part 2 and talk about the Hemang Badani we don't see and rarely get to read about, the one that only his friends and family know. We'll be back in a moment's time. Don't go away. Welcome back. My guest is the irrepressible Hemang Badani. Hemang, I gather you were one of the naughtiest children imaginable.
Well, that's what they say. I mean, I remember a few things when I was a kid. I remember a time when there was this little pup who was just after me all the time, and he was just going barking, bark, 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 and I think I was 5 then, and at one point of time I was just too cheesed out with the dog, and I said, "This is it. I'm not going to take it anymore." I just took the pup, and we used to have a well in my old house, and I just put the dog in the well, and I mean that was something which
Naughty and cruel.
I mean, he was just going on and on and on, and I couldn't take that any longer. I said, enough is enough. I mean,
A drowning is what you need.
exactly, something like that. And I did get a shelling for that little later with my mom, but that's what I did.
That's why your family perhaps says that for reasons that no one could quite understand, your grandfather doted on you.
Well, he just adored me, I could say that, because I mean, I would be so naughty, and there were times when my mom would yell at me, and the first thing I would do is go to my grandfather, and my grandfather would tell my mom that if children aren't naughty, who would be? And he would actually yell at my mom, saying, "Come on, give him a break. Don't yell at him." And my mom would be like, "Whoa, where is this coming from?" So that was nice. I mean, my grandfather was somebody whom I loved. He loved me as well, and I miss him till date.
But you didn't love all the young boys in the neighborhood, your mom says. You would frequently beat them up, and their moms would come and complain to her every day.
There is a story to that. I mean, not many people know this, because it so happened that I was reasonably good at cricket at that age, and we would play in the gully, in the street, in the apartment itself, and these guys would not get me out, and they would cheat. They would cheat that I'm out when I'm not out. So, in the bargain, if they get me out like that, all I could speak was not words, but blows. So,
So every time they cheated, you thrashed them.
that's what I did. I mean, I loved batting, and if they would cheat and do that to me, and I mean, all I could do to them was beat them up.
And your mom also says that he was an incredible daredevil. I gather you once jumped into a pool and you didn't even know how to swim.
Yeah, this happened in Ahmedabad at my grandmom's place, and they had just taken me to the cricket club there, and my uncle was there, my aunt was there, my sister was there, and there was this time when we had just gone to the pool, and that was my first time in the pool, and I'd never been in the pool before. And
what
as
made you
soon as
do
I
it?
saw the water, I just ran into it. I just jumped into the pool. I mean, I didn't know swimming, nothing, and luckily there were people around to save
Someone
me. Out of it.
fished you out.
Somebody fished me out of it, but I just ran into the pool. I mean.
So if I were to say that the one thing that Hemang Badani isn't is reserved, reticent, tongue-tied and shy.
Not really, not at all, not one bit. I mean, I'm too naughty for that, and too clear about things in life, about what I would do, what I wouldn't do, and
And you're a
I would go
naturally
for it.
outgoing personality.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm outgoing with everybody. I take a little time, but once I know a person, then he has to run away. He better go somewhere else.
And do you make friends easily? Do you like having people around you? Are you
Absolutely,
gregarious?
absolutely. I love having people around me. I love having a good chat with somebody. It could be anybody. I could just meet somebody in an aircraft or in a train or in anywhere. I could just go and talk up to. I mean,
So you
go
will chat up strangers
I
anywhere?
don't mind doing that at all. I mean, I'm absolutely okay with that. I mean, as long as I love that person, I mean, if I get the right vibes from the other person, I would have a good conversation with that person.
Now I'm told that the one person who got the better of you from the word go ended up as your wife.
Oh yes, I mean, that was a long time, but I do remember that I met my wife, say in 2000. Oh no, no. The first time I met her was say about 97. I
And I
think.
gathered it happened on the roadside.
Absolutely, it did, and it so happened that I used to go to practice in the mornings, and that one morning after I was just back from my practice, I had to go through a friend's place, and my friend happened to know my wife at that point of time. She wasn't my wife, I mean, she was just a friend of that friend, and it so happened that they had gone rowing, and I had just was getting past their house, and I saw this friend of mine. I stopped. I mean, just to say hi, what's happening, and then we just got introduced. The minute I saw my wife, I was smitten by her, and
Except the amazing thing is you were smitten by her, but I gather she wasn't smitten by you at all.
not one bit, because she just kept me off for a long time. I just kept asking this friend of mine for my wife's number, and she just wouldn't give it to me. And I said, if she can't give me I mean, if I can't call her, at least ask her to call me.
And she wouldn't do that
either. And it took her about a month and a half to actually give me a call.
A month and a half to
Just to
just
give
get
me
a
a call.
telephone call.
Exactly, that's what she did to actually. I mean, that's the time she took to actually give me a call. And since then we were talking to each other for about 3.5 years, and we never met.
Hang on a moment. 3.5 years on the telephone?
On the telephone.
That's it?
all we did.
No other contact?
Nothing at all. We would bump into each other once in a while in the grocery store or something like that. in
And
the
she
market.
would pretend she didn't know you.
Yeah, but she would never even look at me. She wouldn't even talk to me. But on the phone, we would keep talking, and we had long chats on the phone. But we never
You
met.
tried, I gather, during this period to tempt her to meet you. In fact, you even offered her tickets to the India-Pakistan match in Chennai, didn't you? But she wouldn't take the bait.
And that was a hot cake actually. I mean, you were never getting tickets for the India-Pakistan game. You know how it is with the India-Pakistan matches. And I had 2 tickets for that game. And I said, if anybody could actually pursue somebody and persuade that person to play, I mean, to come out with me, would be this. If that person can say no to this, he or she can say no to anything. And I said, I'll take my chance and ask her and see if she wants to come and watch the match. And I wasn't surprised when she said no, to be honest, because I had known her by then and I knew that she might say no, and she did.
So, in fact, when it comes to toughness, she's a lot tougher than you.
Well, you could say that, yes. I mean, she actually kept me waiting for a very long time, and it took me a while to actually propose to her.
Now, I gather she says that when you did propose to her, she thought it was a joke.
Well, it did happen. I do remember the date. It was the 12th of Feb, and she was having her exams, and we used to always talk in the evenings, in the nights, and she was just having one of those spells of breaks through her studies, and she called me, and I had actually seen enough for her by then, and I'd known what kind of person she was, and I just proposed to her on the phone at that very minute at about 12 in the night, and I had.
Hey, you said we've been talking for 3.5 years. Will you marry me?
Exactly, something like that, and I had this thing of pulling her leg every now and then, cracking a joke every now and then, and she just thought I was joking, and she didn't take it seriously. She was just saying, get off
But
this.
do you think by then she was half hoping you would say these words?
Yes, I do feel so. I had a feeling that she was hoping that I would ask this sometime. I just had that feeling.
Why does he keep ringing me when he won't say the important words, huh?
Probably, yes. I mean, I did have a feeling that she was expecting this sometime to happen, and she didn't believe it that night, and then I had to do it the next day again in the morning, and that's when she said, maybe there's something really happening. And
You are, I gather, quite a persistent person.
Well, you need to be when you need your things. When you want something, you have to go after it. They
So
don't
whether
come to
it's
you.
Lakshana that you're trying to persuade to marry you or the selectors to get you back in the team, you don't take no for an answer.
Well, that's not my way of life. If you need something, you got to go for it and try real hard for it.
So underneath the devil-may-care attitude that you put up, Hemang Badani is a tough man.
You could say that. I mean, life isn't easy, but I'm prepared to fight. I'm prepared to give it all I've got, and I will get what I want in life, no matter what. Because I believe that if you put in everything you've got, if you really want something in life and you work towards it, I'm very sure you. I mean, it could be me or anybody else, but you will attain what you want.
In other words, effort gets its own result.
Absolutely.
Hemang Badani, a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.